Have you ever looked at the data on the average retirement savings of people in their 50s and thought, that's not very much? Well, as it turns out, it's worse than you think. Hi, I'm Patrick King, and in this video, I'll show you how people over 55 are saving wrong according to Vanguard's data, and why the massive gap between the average and median savings proves that most Americans are dangerously behind on retirement savings. I'll also show you how this data lulls some people into a false sense of security, how many savers over 55 end up making things worse, and the two strategies that you can use to avoid all of this before it's too late. And we'll also talk about Pac Man. But first, let me show you why Vanguard's data means that things are much worse than we thought. All right, let's get you retired. Okay, if you and I were in a room with Elon Musk, currently the world's wealthiest human with an estimated net worth of nearly $500 billion, the average net worth of everyone in the room would be over $166 billion. But that doesn't mean that you and I can go out and buy a private island. That's why averages can be deceiving. A more useful number in this case would be the median net worth. The median is simply the middle value in a sorted list of numbers. So in our case, the median net worth in the room would be whoever, between the two of us, happened to have the higher net worth at that time, which would be a rounding error for Elon. By looking at the median number, we factor out how much Elon's net worth skews the average. And so this same principle applies to this Vanguard data. For savers between 55 and 64, the average retirement account balance was $244,750. But the median account balance was only $87,571. So the number of people saving for retirement in this study who have less than the average is much greater than the number of people in this study who have more than the average. There are some super savers out there that are skewing the average number to make it look like people are saving more than they are. And when it comes to people 65 and older, we see the same thing. For this group, the average retirement account comes in at $272,588, where the median account comes in at $88,488. And when we think about this median number at age 65, even if we're using a guardrails-based withdrawal rate of 5.3%, that's less than $4,700 a year in retirement income. So this gap between the average and the median shows us that most people haven't saved enough. And if you're hearing this and you're feeling good because you are trending above that average number, you may have just stepped into a trap. Now let me ask you, would you consider yourself to be a better than average driver? Chances are you do. And how do I know this? Well, it's because that somewhere between 73 and 80% of US drivers consider themselves to be above average. So there are a lot of people driving around out there who think they're way better than they are, and we certainly have our share in Atlanta. And this is the same kind of overconfidence that can spill into saving for retirement when we start comparing ourselves to the average retirement saver. Being above average can lull you into a sense of false security, believing you're on track when in fact you may not be saving enough. Even though your savings is above average, you may get to retirement and realize that you're hundreds of thousands of dollars short. And so that's the benefit of actually creating a retirement plan. People who know they're a little behind tend to course correct and do it sooner than people with a false sense of security. Those last 10 years before retirement offer some unique opportunities to save a little bit more. If you're behind a little, starting just a couple of years earlier can make a massive difference, and you're less likely to delay retirement or reduce your lifestyle when you finally get there. So where that false sense of security can lull you into inaction, there's another psychological trap waiting for you when you finally do realize you're behind. And this one's pretty common. If you're a sports fan, you're certainly familiar with the Hail Mary. Your team's down, there's just seconds on the clock, and there's no timeouts. But there's still a little bit of hope. There's only time for one more play. What do? The desperation play. You heave the ball downfield and you hope that someone on your team miraculously catches it for the winning score. The odds aren't great, but they're not zero. We've seen it, we know it, we love it when it works. But what would you do if your favorite team was down and started throwing Hail Marys with 15 minutes left in the game? That would be crazy, right? But that's what a lot of people over 55 do once they figure out that they're a little behind on their savings. One of the ways that they do this is by expecting their investments to perform better than what's reasonable. They'll bump up those projected investment returns in their retirement plan so that everything works, and hope that the market delivers on those kind of returns before they retire. Or they'll crank up their risk to 11 in the hopes of maxing out their returns and crossing their fingers that a bear market doesn't get them. But both of these are like throwing a Hail Mary at the beginning of the fourth quarter, even if you're only down by one score. At this age, it's not as late as you think. Instead of that high-risk play, a combination of a couple of things will likely work out better. A disciplined, numbers-based investment strategy combined with a bump in your retirement savings. I know, boring, right? Market returns are one of those things that aren't in our control, no matter what that hot new investment strategy that you hear about on the news says. This is one of those times where the serenity prayer comes in handy. Instead of trying to shoot the moon, taking consistent, deliberate action beats the heave and hope strategy. And now that you understand how some of these mindsets can be trip hazards for your retirement, click on the link below to book a call where we'll analyze your situation and show you how to build a plan that works without having to cross your fingers. And remember that bump in retirement savings that I mentioned earlier? Well, the good news is that in your 50s, it's easier than ever. Do you remember Pac Man and Miss Pac Man? You know when you got Pac Man to eat one of those power pellets? I had to go back and look up what these things were called, by the way. So when you got Pac Man to go eat one of those power pellets, he would go faster and eat more, including the ghosts, but only for a limited amount of time. So if you're over 50, the IRS kind of throws you some retirement power pellets in the form of catch-up contributions. Starting at 50, they allow you to save an extra $7,500 to your 401k and an extra $1,000 to your IRA. And from age 60 to 63, you get another power pellet, the Super Catch-Up. This allows you to save an extra $11,250 to your 401k, 403b, or 457 plan in 2025. But the rules around catch-up contributions are set to change. Starting in 2026, savers over 50 will be divided into two groups. Those making $145,000 or less in the prior year, and those making more than $145,000 in the prior year. For those making $145,000 or less, they can continue to make catch-up contributions into their tax-deferred retirement accounts. However, anyone making more than $145,000 in the prior year will now have to start putting their catch-up dollars into a Roth 401k. Interesting. And the catch-up limits increase next year as well to $8,000 for your 401k and $1,100 for your IRA. Maxing out these power pellets can really juice your retirement portfolio in these years leading up to retirement. And so you don't have to go for the Hail Mary to make all of these numbers work. All you have to do is be disciplined with your investments and take advantage of these catch-up contributions. But when it comes to a disciplined investment strategy, what does that actually look like? Okay, think of your retirement savings as a glass of wine that you're holding at an open bar wedding reception. Ideally, you got a glass of wine that's starting to look pretty full. What you don't want to do at this point is start flapping around as soon as the band starts playing the chicken dance, because one awkward hip check from Aunt Betty on the dance floor can spill a bunch of what it took you years to accumulate. And we're trying to make this thing last all evening, right? So just like you don't want to come out hot at the reception, you'll want to dial back the risk that you take in your investments, especially in those years bracketing your retirement date. Ramping down your risk as you approach retirement is known as a glide path strategy. The idea is that this strategy reduces your sequence of returns risk, because a market crash right at the beginning of your retirement can affect your withdrawals for the rest of your life. If there's a 40% market downturn, just like in 2008 and 2009, right before your retirement, then the sustainable withdrawals that you can take from your savings goes down too. That could set you back years. By reducing the risk that you take, you can hedge some of that sequence risk. Lowering your allocation to stocks and increasing your allocation to bonds should insulate you somewhat from market downturns. However, I will say that you can't overdo it. Remember, you still need stocks to help you win the war against inflation over the course of your retirement. How much you dial back on the risk is a personal decision that should be made in the context of your entire financial situation. And it may even make sense to increase your stocks later in life after you're removed from those first few years of retirement, when your focus shifts from, well, I have enough, to we're investing for the next generation. Because at some point in the evening, the band's going to start playing Earth, Wind, and Fire, and everyone's getting on the dance floor for that one. Now that you understand how to structure your investments to lower your risk, let's look at our comprehensive catch-up framework that can fix your retirement savings. Okay, After looking at some of these numbers from Vanguard's study, it's pretty clear that most people don't have enough saved for retirement. So if you're behind, what's your playbook? The first step is to be honest with ourselves here about where we are. Hope is not a strategy. So you have to assess where you are so you can move to where you want to be. And the natural reaction may be to start getting aggressive with your investments to try and throw that Hail Mary pass. But of course, that's an urge that we need to fight. In a lot of cases, that may put you further behind when things don't pan out. To get back on track, instead focus on the extra savings opportunities that are available to you if you're over age 50. These catch-up and super catch-up contributions to your retirement accounts are a fantastic way to, well, catch up. Combine those savings with a well-diversified, low-cost investment portfolio where you ease off the risk a little bit going into those critical years around your retirement date. That'll help protect you against the sequence risk of a bear market in those critical years. Remember, the best kind of investment portfolios are boring. Okay, now that you understand how people over 55 save wrong, according to Vanguard's data, and why the median retirement account balance of $87,000 and change reveals that most pre-retirees are dangerously behind, you can implement the catch-up contributions that we mentioned earlier, you can make the asset allocation adjustments when the time is right, and you can avoid the behavioral mistakes that will keep you from getting there. Because I want your retirement and your life to be an amazing one. If you need help with your retirement planning, click on the link below and book a call where we'll analyze your specific situation and show you exactly how to optimize your retirement strategy no matter what your current situation looks like. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.